And we're live. Can you hear me okay, Karen?
You're a little bit low though.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now better.
Okay. Uh Anisha McCudgeta Arish Tá Karen Green Drochad Aha Dimage a Kench and up between Kersey Black Lives Matter. Okay. First of all, I just want to start this off by saying uh, this is not having a go at coloured or African Americans in the slightest. It's absolutely not. I've got loads of friends, African Americans, and they are actually appalled by this whole blinking thing.
Mm,
Uh, this whole they're appalled about the fact that this movement just shames Black Americans.
mm,
Somebody put up a very it paints them consistently as victims, and they're not victims. They're doing very well in society, and
yeah.
good luck to them. I mean, there was a black president. So there's nothing holding people back. So it's just I feel, and a lot of people feel, there was a very good video put up. I'll put the link to it at the end. That Black Americans are being shamed by this wanton destruction. It's just completely different. It's a movement that's actually quite dangerous and is designed, I think, to just erase and destroy Western culture. It's a bit like
Mm,
fake feminism, in my opinion. You've
mm,
touched on it yourself. Women
yeah.
don't want jobs because of quotas and because of feminism. They want jobs on merit, and
Yeah.
they can get jobs on merit. It's the same as coloured Black Americans. They can get jobs on merit. They don't need this
Exactly.
constant playing the victim. What do you think, Karen?
Well, that's true. And I don't believe.
What do you think of the BLM thing?
I don't agree with any of it. I think it's very false, given the impression that it's about standing up for a black person, like because the person has been badly treated by the police. I know in America they have a different way of dealing with prisoners, and obviously in this case, this person has had history. But either way, he
And
no
first
one
of all,
here.
we don't condone that at all. We could, if the guy was treated badly, he's been quite rightly dealt with. The police guy has been quite rightly dealt with. Sorry, go on ahead, Karen.
Yeah, no. What I was going to say is no one's mentioned the fact that he had other drugs in his system that could have killed, had
Yeah.
contributed to his death. It's not just the neck or the foot on his a knee on his neck. And I think the way it's the Black Lives Matter movement. It's been going on there a few years. It's taken a break. It was going on there about 3 or 4 years ago, and now suddenly it's exploded into this all these riots, not just in the States, but it's all over Europe and here and in England. So it's like people are taking it. They're kind of going on a bandwagon of violence and rioting. Now there's one actually here in Drogheda, a very small one. I think it was Tuesday. It erupted in a row afterwards. But people are not seeing it for what it is. As you say earlier on, it's like they're treating black people as victims when quite rightly they're actually doing quite well in society, whether it's the legal profession, the medical profession,
Yeah.
public service, and like it's not as though they've no rights. They haven't progressed as
Yeah.
a culture. They do have their own culture and their own way of going about things, whether the African
That
American or
that
the Nigerian. So go on.
that video that I mentioned, the video that I mentioned of the African American woman, she says, "Look, this doesn't happen to other minorities. It doesn't happen in the Chinese community, the Jewish community, the Indian
Yeah,
community, the Mexican community. It's just the Black American community. But there's no need for it." But I mean, somebody has commented there. It's about Irish Lives Matter. What we're saying, and it is actually. This is primarily a chat about, look, regardless of Black Lives Matter, and I'm not anti. We're not anti it at all.
mm,
And for anybody that has made any abusive comments to people calling us racists, I'll just let them know that we're not going to stop what we're doing. We're on the side of truth. We're not on the side of any race. We're on the side
yeah,
of truth. But in all this, I think what has been forgotten is that in Ireland, what happened in America happened in America. We've no history of that in this country, and people are quicker to get involved in protests about a death in America, rightly or wrongly, well, wrongly, but there are no, they're not coming out supporting Irish Lives Matter when
yeah.
there's Irish homeless, there's Irish elderly dying in the nursing homes. We've had a lockdown, rightly or wrongly, which has gone on a bit long. Possibly we didn't close down borders when we could have. What about Irish Lives Matter, Karen?
Well, I mean, as you know, there's been two assaults on two young men, they're teenagers, in the last week. One in Cork there, and the boy who attacked the Cork boy has been arrested, but not arrested for attempted murder, only for assault, and it
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
theft. And that's not, to me, that's not sending a clear message about what it was really. They were going against an Irish child. And we're not, it's like, we don't matter anymore. I mean, an African child is worth as much equally as an Irish child. And I think we're not sticking up for ourselves. We're too quickly to standing like last Saturday and the Saturday before for an African male prisoner in America. And the first one was 5,000 people in O'Connell Street. And then there was more
yeah.
than outside the American embassy last Saturday. Now, to me, why are we jumping on that bandwagon? We have to deal with our own issues first. What's going on in Ireland? Why would we have such
Yeah.
violence? I mean, the video went round there about the riot, the fighting in Drogheda on Tuesday. You know, we're not looking at that. We need to concentrate on controlling and stopping those fights. And as you say, all people are dying with COVID and you know, the last few months. Nobody's going out really about that. And nobody's really, you know, looking at those problems. We have our own problems here, and we need to be protesting about that. And we've done it in the past. All the, you know, the water charges and all that kind of thing. We've done it in the past. Why are we ignoring the problems now? And why is our media ignoring the problems now? You know, it's like you don't want to know about the riots and any racism going on in this country. You know, against us, not against any other ethnic minority.
Yeah.
It's against us as a people. I mean, I don't go around attacking people because of their colour. And I wouldn't expect anyone to attack me because I'm Irish or you. And I think that's wrong. It's like it's an inverted racism.
Yeah.
Against us as a people.
You've mentioned that case, and the media, I think, the RTE mainstream media are absolutely appalling in this. You mentioned the case in Limerick, and there was one just come to us before it in, was it Galway? Was it Galway? There was an attack on a local lad in Galway, and then the other one in Limerick, savagely beaten by African gangs.
Mm-hmm.
And because the media either they're too scared to do their job properly, or they're just complicit, and they just will not cover that. They didn't give it the coverage it deserved. I mean, on the one in the incident when the wee lad was stabbed in Limerick, it was a brutal stabbing, shocking incident, and it was given 30 seconds on the RTE News that night, and they said it was a boy that did it. Like, that's watering it down so much, calling it a boy instead of saying, you know, it was a 17-year-old, and give a proper description the way they would have had it been a 17-year-old Irish kid. They would have says it was. They would have pointed out if it was an Irish kid on a black kid.
Yeah.
They would have said that, but they don't say it when it's the other way about. So it's just the media is absolutely sickening on that, and it just really makes people angry. They're just not even doing their job. If they would just say the truth, and then let people make their own decisions, they won't do that. So, I mean, if that was in Northern Ireland context, if that was a sectarian attack from one side on the other, that would be main news. That would have been given mainstream news. And if it had been the other way around down south, it would have been made into an international. It might have even been on the English news, you know. So it's just the discrimination is against the Indigenous Irish people on the face of it. When you look at it like that.
And I mean, go on.
I think the wee lad actually said. I think he might have said something like on his Facebook, or one of the lads that was attacked said something like, "Well, what about White Lives Matter?" You know, and even saying something like that, that's racist. You know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even the most neutral remark is racist. And all these ones that are these virtue signalers on these marches, all people saying, "Well, look, what about just making all lives matter?" Oh, no, that's not enough. It can't be all lives matter. You know, there's Cork FM didn't mention the races. Reverse it and they're all over the race angle. That's right. Yeah.
Who's saying that?
Gareth mentioned that. Welcome aboard, Gareth. And I think that's Nora. Nora, who Good on you. Good to see you. Falchus Jack. Uh, so just the media, we're just touching on it. It's just so biased. It's to me, they're not doing their job, and then it makes other people have to then tell people, "Did you hear about this attack?" And they go, "No." Well, because the media won't tell you.
But even last year, when those assaults were happening on those girls down in Wexford, they wouldn't even say what the ethnic origin of those people were, of those boys were, and it's like they're afraid to say, "Oh, it was an Asian or an African male." Whereas, why is it attacking a person? They'll say, "Oh, Irish white male in their 40s attacks a man or a woman or whatever," and it would be said straight away. And they might say, "Oh, they would not name me," but they wouldn't. They would certainly name their description. They're not afraid to say, "Oh, it's a white woman or a white man." But when it comes to a black person saying, I mean, everyone can commit a crime. It doesn't mean it causes a divide. It's just that we need to be honest about it. And the journalists have to have a backbone. And then, I mean, and it forces me and you and other YouTubers to come out and say, we need to expose the truth because no one else is doing it. No, I mean, no, I came out in the Herald on Tuesday and so on. But I mean, they're the only ones who are doing it. The main big broadsheets, Irish Times, Irish Examiner, Irish Independent, they're not doing it.
Did the Herald cover it? Yeah. Did the Herald cover it?
Oh, sorry. Yes, the Herald covered it on Tuesday with the Sun. I mean, they should all be covering it, but we should make that across the board. We shouldn't have teenagers attacking teenagers. And if they do that when they're 16 and 17, what are they going to be doing in the 20s and 30s?
Yeah,
and are beating each other up over something, a phone or whatever.
You shudder to think what would happen. I mean, they played it down to the fact that he was a boy, but as you say, if he does that there as a boy, what would he do as a 25, 30-year-old? I mean, somebody touched the other night. I think I was watching an old video with somebody in the north up here, and they're quite into the religion. And I said, when people come into the country, if they go back to what's in the Bible, if they want to be accepted as a citizen, it's 7 generations you have to be before, and keeping your nose clean while you're at it before you get accepted as a citizen. Now, I mean, I think it was the guy in Donegal,
Niall O'Connell, yeah.
Niall McConnell.
Yeah.
He said that he was laughed out of court. So it's tricky territory when you get into the talking about how long should you be before your class is Irish. But the Bible does say 7 generations, so that's probably where he got that from.
Well, I think he's partly right, because I mean, if you say, if I go to America and say I'm American, I can't say I'm American, even if I had children and maybe parents and grandparents. How American am I really? I'm Irish. I mean, you have to have a good few generations behind you to say you're Irish. I mean, it's reasonable. I mean, we have African people coming over here and saying they're Irish, but the parents aren't Irish, the children are. But the children are only Irish because they're born in Ireland, but their parents aren't. So it's really.
The media just is completely biased in the one hand. It's like every immigrant story is always painted positive, but when there's ever anything negative, they never touch on the fact that it's an immigrant person. Gareth mentioned they're covering up, the grooming scandals, and with the Tommy Robinson thing, they cover all that up. They covered up the Munich New Year's Eve rapes in 2016. Never mentioned about. Somebody mentioned their Black Lives Matter in London. Somebody had a White Lives Matter, was torn out of their hand. Yeah. Gareth saying, how long does it take to be Japanese? Remember the song Turning Japanese? That was actually on the list. Paul Joseph Watson did a story that song Turning Japanese would not be accepted now because it's racist. And another one he mentioned, if you saw the video, another one he mentioned was even Bob Geldof, who's the most globalist of the lot. But remember Feed the World mandate? The line, and there won't be snow in Africa this Christmas. Nothing ever grows there. That would be deemed unacceptable because it's having a go at Africa, even though it's meant to raise millions for Africa.
Yeah.
But the media. Sorry.
He went against people. He went against people last year with fisheries. I mean, he's quite anti-Irish, in lots of ways. I don't understand it at all. And Bono, obviously, but anyway, that's another day's story.
I think I always can never work out really which one of them two is the worst. I mean, they are very. I remember reading about Bob Geldof
Bono, I think.
back in the 80s. Do you think Bono was the worst? But
Yeah.
Geldof in the 80s was slagging off Ireland, like, you know, he was talking. I mean, and that anyway, we've talked about it.
Well, you mentioned there just a second ago about the grooming gangs, and we all heard that talk a month ago about a woman that came over from England. I'm talking about grooming gangs in England, and I've seen a drama about 3 years ago called The Three Girls in the Rochdale case. We're not there yet, but if we keep going the way we're going, we could be.
We're going to head
Imagine if I had a daughter who was, it was the same similar situation where men were taking girls. They were taking British girls, and they were trafficking them to other men.
Yeah.
And the reason why it went on so long is because the police were afraid to go after them because they'd be accused of racism. We have to stop being afraid of that word. Yeah. I know I'm not a racist, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I think unfortunately things are getting worse with this whole BLM thing. It's hammering in the point more. I mean, you're even having Rory McIlroy today speaking up about it. I mean, where does it end? I mean, Keir Starmer's bending his knee. I mean, even Boris Johnson's afraid to call it out. The only person that I thought was in any way critical of it was Priti Patel, and she is from an immigrant background. Like, fair play to her for calling it out.
And then Imelda May as well.
Oh God! I mean, I like that. I like that comment on her saying, what was it? A boring Harridan witch or something. Just go back, you bore, or something like that. You know. Oh, it was vomit inducing something. What she comes out with.
I know. I only know she said you can't be Irish and be racist or something. Or, yeah.
So I watched another video from a guy this week as well, and he says, talking about Ireland's in a very, very bad place at the minute. The fact that we can't call the likes of that thing out, the attacks on the Irish kids. I mean, that's a dark place. I mean, we're having problems at the minute, and Varadkar and everybody else talk about bringing in 1 million more people from Africa just to be consumers. So it's because everybody here, we have enough stuff. We don't need to be buying new stuff. So they need to bring more people in who need loads of stuff and who will buy loads of mobile phones and the forces of capital. And that's why they're bringing them in. So they don't give a fiddlers about Irish culture or Irish people. It's just bring in more consumers for wherever they're from.
Everything is a market now. Nothing is sacred anymore. And like we were only saying this last night. I mean, I only said this since I came home. Ireland, I don't recognize it. I don't recognize my town. It's like it's changed too quickly. And I mean, now we're hearing that our Taoiseach is talking about statues being commemorating racism. And I was on before I came on here on the news where they're looking at taking the statues down in America that had a Confederate slant. I mean, they're there years, and suddenly they want to take them down. Yeah. I mean, they have the Constitution because of the war and the blacking out history.
Yeah, it was made by. I think it was Herman made the video this week saying, when you start taking down statues, you're going to just erase and obliterate your history and your past. I mean, where does it end? I mean, okay, when Ireland got independence, it renamed some of the streets in Dublin. Sackville Street was renamed O'Connell Street. That was because it was a new country with a new government. I think they're entitled to do that. And even removing, the Nelson's Pillar in O'Connell Street. But what people are doing now is removing things from within a country that hasn't changed hands. So that's just obliterating the country's history. And there's a pathetic one there this week that the People Before Profit guy has now had piped up with a problem with a statue in Galway that nobody knew was probably there of Christopher Columbus. It was a gift to the city in 1990. But now he probably paid somebody to go around and find out some statues that he could be offended about. So apparently this has to go now. The one in Galway has to go. There'll be protests about that from them. There'll be protests about the guy Thomas, is it Russell? The Irish paint in Dublin. So they're just going around with a shopping list of saying where to start with taking the statues away. And that's going back to an Orwellian style thing where you just remove all history and everything to do with the country. You're removing the culture You might as well just blow it all up and just put up communist flats everywhere.
Yeah, I remember I read a book about the Bosnian War, and when it was raging, they burned down the libraries, the main libraries in the cities, and they wiped out the history of a country that's been peaceful for years. I know they went through other wars, but when the Bosnian War happened in the 90s, it was really, really bad. Obviously, so neighbors going against neighbors that were friends for years, and suddenly they'll go killing each other. But they burnt the libraries down. Is that what's next? We're gonna. I mean, even the history in school, what me and you learned about history at school, that's going to be changed, or it's going to be watered down, or it's going to be not something you have to do anymore. I mean, it's very important to know our history, but it's very important to kind of keep it in our schools. Some people like history. I wasn't great at it, but you can't take that away from the schools. I think it's very sad. And we start burning down and taking statues down. I mean, somebody made a point there on Facebook that they're defaming, or not defaming, they're destroying, they're marking the statues, and like Daniel O'Connell Street, that one big monument at the top of O'Connell Street. They're defacing it. Yeah, sorry.
Are they doing that?
There's markings on the walls. I mean, that's a huge monument. Yeah. I seen it there during the Black Lives March there a few weeks ago.
So it's like the Frank Sinatra song, "They can't take that away from me." No, they can't take away your history from you.
Yeah.
I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, it has to be there and it acknowledges things that happened. I mean, I just think this cultural Marxism now seems to be just wanting to eradicate everything. I mean, at worst case scenario, you could put a plaque up saying that this man made his money through slavery or whatever. But you can't just take that stuff down. You're going to end up with bland nothingness. And I mean, you go back to even lesser culture like Little Britain, and the League of Gentlemen has been removed, never to be shown again. I mean, they were quite funny comedies. And because there's a few coloured characters or black characters in them or whatever, it's not politically correct anymore. So we're going to lose all that good comedy. And that's why they never show Faulty Towers anymore, because Faulty Towers or Dave Allen used to take
Dave Allen, yeah.
He used to take the nick out of the Catholic Church and the Irish all the time. I mean, we all laughed at that. And now you can't take Faulty Towers was having a go at the Spanish and the Irish and the Germans. And, we all laughed, but
he was brilliant.
There's Garth saying, yeah.
I remember when I was young, we'd hear about him, and my grandmother would talk about him, but he's very controversial. And he was. But he was right. He was telling the truth. Dave Allen. He would have been telling the truth in a funny way because it was so true. I mean, like, I don't know. Ireland has changed to such an extent that it's unrecognizable. It's not the Ireland, the warm, cozy Ireland it used to be. There's no soul. There's no soul.
Well, it's been like that. It's lost its soul a long time ago. I've unfortunately said it. So Gareth saying there's only going to be 3 statues left: Nelson Mandela, Karl Marx, and Stephen Lawrence.
Stephen Lawrence.
He was the black guy that was killed by the police.
Oh yes.
Yeah. There's only going to be 3 ones left.
I remember that story. That was very sad.
That's very sad that they are attacking the O'Connell Street one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, that's going to be the thing now. It's going to be, let's look around and see what statues we can remove.
Suddenly, where is that coming from?
Up here we have Cromwell Street, Cromwell Road and stuff. I mean, okay, he has a bad history with Ireland, but I'm not so sure if we should be replacing the name of it. I don't know. What do you think about that? Oliver Cromwell.
Well, I mean, you don't replace the history if it's okay, but even if it's bad, you don't forget. Because look at all the times we're reminded about the Jews and their suffering. We always constantly reminded of what happened to them, and you can't forget that. If you keep forgetting what happened to other people, it kind of disrespects our suffering. So if that happened to the famine, for example, famine.
Yeah. We can't ignore and forget that it happened. By all means, the World War, Holocausts and stuff. We have to remember it. We have to have it there. And there's no point erasing stuff, And then the police guy in Bristol, when they tore down the statue, said that he wasn't going to make any arrests or intervene or anything. So
Why would he not make arrests? Because to me, that was a public statue. That should have been protected. I mean, it's there for a reason. I don't know much about it, but still, that was criminal damage.
Yeah, it was totally.
I mean,
Paul is saying there, why is Dublin covered in dark commie murals? There's one in Ballymun of penguins on Little Muddy Island. Have you seen that? No snow and ice. Civil unrest in the making or something like that. Have you seen that?
No.
Well, it may well be. There must be. Nora is saying politically correct comedy is an oxymoron. In other words, it has to be a bit politically incorrect to be funny. I mean, it has to be, we're not going to laugh anymore,
I mean, if you remember, in the 80s about over the puppets. Remember that puppets on the Sunday night? They were political satire. I can't remember the name of what it was called. It was politically satirical because of the stuff that was going on in the 80s in the British politics. I can't remember what it was called. But it was popular because of it made fun of any story or any situation. Split an image. I mean, would that be allowed to be around today?
Probably not. I mean, it was hilarious. It probably wouldn't, because it was a wee bit. It was very funny, Somebody is saying there that there was a Luke Kelly statue.
Yes.
Are they going to tear that down because he was ginger? Apparently, they're saying it's been vandalized already.
Oh yeah, loads of times, and so has what's his name? I think of it. Leonard. Phil Leonard. Yeah, his statue was damaged a few times. I mean, that's disgraceful. They're icons in Irish music. Why would you want to destroy them?
He was Black Irish. He was Irish.
Yeah.
What was the agenda for that?
I mean, he was well known. I mean, why would you want to destroy people who brought great music, regardless of their history, or their ethnic background? I mean, why do people feel the need to impose their culture on other people? Why is that? Why would I want to destroy Brit? I mean, well, that's what enriches. You were saying earlier the day about how some cultures are better than others. And we both watched Paul Watson's video on Monday, I think on Monday. And he made a comment and he made it quite clear that some of the cultures in other parts of the world are not right because it destroys other people. Now, if you look at European culture, music, art, architecture, it's very rich. Like the French, the Italians, the Spanish, Irish, British, Polish. We all have our own histories. If we're all the same, it'd be very boring.
This is Ireland, and we have to prioritise Irish culture in Ireland. I mean, it has to take priority. The same way as in France, I think French culture should be put forward, and Italy and everything else, because that's their country, and that's that. Because if you just wipe it all out, you're going to get a load of bland nothingness.
That's exactly, and it'll be very boring.
Exactly. If I want to go on holiday to France, I want to meet French people, and I want to speak French, and I want to learn a bit about French culture. I don't want to go
in a French cafe.
Yeah. I mean, the one country where you will get that is actually Hungary is maintaining its culture quite well, But and the Eastern European countries are like Poland and Czechoslovakia. They're saying they're going to be the last bastion of nationalism.
We need to do that. We need to do that a lot, and I think. I said it before, we're afraid to stand up for ourselves. We lost our battle. We're afraid to say, I'm Irish, I want my country back, I want to keep it, my culture, my music, our history, our Christianity, our statues, our language, everything. It's like we're ashamed of being Irish. It's like, let's give it up now again.
If I can just go back, I mean, if any country knows about getting its history eradicated, it was Irish history with the language getting done. What a way to get rid of a culture, but take its language away. So that's been done to us, so we know all about that. I mean, if I can just go back to the point of the lad that was attacked in Limerick, there was a GoFundMe page set up.
Oh, okay? Yes. Yeah.
And it was taken down. There's all sorts of controversy about it. Now, the family apparently had said something that they wanted to distance themselves from that. that they hadn't supported that. So that was doing
Aye.
the rounds. So I don't know if you heard anything about that.
I didn't know. I mean, sometimes people put these things up, and I can understand you might get somebody who's good intentions putting a good GoFundMe up for the family. The family might not have done it themselves. It might be a neighbor, a family friend, whatever. But I think Antifa had it closed down. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's wrong. I mean, what has Antifa got to do with any of this? I mean, a child has been assaulted. He's now in hospital. His family are around him, and then the GoFundMe page is put up, and Antifa come along and say, no, we're taking it down. How are they getting so powerful? They come after us at free speech rallies. They're coming after us to get in something else. It's like they're everywhere all at the same time, and there's no break from them.
Why do you think it was taken down? I mean, it was. I don't know why.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't understand. I did hear about it, but I don't understand the reasoning behind it.
I can't understand how the mechanism happens that would have been taken down. Surely GoFundMe would they have? How can the Antifa or whoever infiltrate that? I mean, I saw your man Garage Murphy talking about it, and he was saying that this guy slagging him off for saying it was a far right thing had been set up to help support the guy's family for his medical thing.
Oh, that's this reason. Okay.
Just gibberish, you know. But I don't know how it could have been taken down. I think the worst thing what happens is if it gets taken down, the money just goes back. You get the money refunded. Yeah. Nora's asking, what about the paintings put up of two masked COVIDiots in Ranelagh? Yeah. I don't know about that. Maybe
I know Ranelagh well, but I haven't been there in a while.
I know Ranelagh well myself. Yeah, we play chess there every year. I don't know.
Huh?
I play chess there every year.
The
Gonzaga school, great place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know about the paintings there of the COVIDiots. Yes, Nora's saying they want the whole world to be a huge shopping mall with identical shops everywhere. So all individual unique characteristics of every country is going to just go.
And small businesses are like small Irish businesses like sell, gifts or, Irish gifts. Like I can think of a few in Ireland and in Drogheda alone. There's the gift box, there's the home flare. They sell Irish jewelry, bags, gifts, jewelry boxes, like gifts for the house or whatever. And they could go to the wall because we can't get in to shop. We're forced to shop online. And I'm continuously talking to my friends at work about this shopping online. Oh, go online, you'll get it there. But I said, I'm sorry, but you should have the choice. You should have choice to go into a shop. You should have choice to go in and pay with cash, not just by card. That's all taken away from you. And even when I was all this COVID, I mean, I don't want to go off into a COVID rabbit hole, but suddenly all our choices are taken away between racism and, racism against us, journalists not reporting things, and then Irish shops and Irish businesses being forced to either take a big hit economically, and they're not getting a chance against big conglomerates, the likes of Aldi. They're sitting in the shadows. So it's all like it's all against the Irish businesses, and then the government is against small businesses by not allowing them to go back to the way they were, to go back to businesses, to go back to earning a living. Hairdressers, salons, they're all Irish. Most of them are Irish, which is good, but at the same time, they're not getting the support that they deserve. Even before COVID.
GoFundMe are 1,000,000% profiting the longer the money stays in their account. Yeah, they do take a cut of the profits, all right. Gareth's saying far right is a meaningless term, just a pejorative term for people you don't like. Yeah, I agree. Totally meaningless.
We know that with that since December.
Just like saying racism. Anything you don't like is racist. Yeah. all Johnny Logan. Remember Johnny Logan? Even that was Irish culture. What's
It was,
another
of course. It's Dana and I mean
Donna,
everything. Donna,
Donna,
yeah.
yeah.
My apologies. Donna.
Nabby Burhan. Come on, let's go. Let's just have a look.
And even our Late Late Show, you go back to the 80s and, the Late Late Show was there and it became part of our culture.
I think for the flagship show, the Late Late Show, we should introduce that in Irish. At least says Tafalcha River, like just say something in Irish, pay lip service at least. We don't even do that. It's so West Brit, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't even allow debate anymore. It came out in a time when it was breaking taboos about, child abuse, the church and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't happen anymore. There's no debate anymore. Not even on any political remit and any of the Irish channels. There's no real debate. The audience sits there and is not allowed to speak unless they're spoken to. They're not allowed to engage in any discussion. I remember going back to the 80s and you see debates. People were allowed to speak, but now they're not. It's like a celebrity. Who's famous now? Who was with who? Who's in some kind of celebrity program? And that's, who's written a book? Who's written a song? Who's a new band? Who's a new sports star? It's all about celebrity. It's all false.
It's just formulaic. Somebody comes on and promoting their new band, their new single, and that.
What you doing?
It's the same as the Graham Norton show. It's just formulaic. They're the same people trotted on, regurgitated every year. The same ones come back again with their latest single or the latest film. And it's just regurgitated. It's just porridge. There's nothing. There is no political debate or nothing. It's watered down. People putting up Irish flags and clap for frontline workers. Well, I have a big problem with that, frontline workers clapping. I'm glad they stopped it. I just think it's virtue signaling to the nth degree. Look at me, I'm out clapping. Look at me, what is it doing?
I don't think that really took off down here.
Well, you're lucky. Thank God you were spared that.
Sorry?
You were spared that.
Yeah.
And
nothing got it anyway.
Again, all these showy gestures. If anybody really cared about the NHS, go and volunteer or go and give them money. All this standing at your door banging saucepans, what does that achieve, Apart from virtue signaling. Yes, Donna is all kinds of everything was Donna's song, 1970, I think.
Yeah.
But actually, Donna is very much, she's very pro-life. She's very, she fit in quite well with this. Like when she stood for presidential election against Mary McAleese, she was hounded because she was the only one given a non-lefty liberal globalist point of view. Fair play to her. And the other ones, they all ganged up on her.
Yeah, she's very different, all right. But I just think we lost our Irishness. We lost our old-fashioned. I don't want to be old-fashioned, but you know what I mean. Progression isn't always bringing everyone along.
Progressiveness is not always a good idea. Sometimes it's good to hold on to the. And it's always spun. Like if you're changing the constitution, it's always vote yes to change it. So yes sounds more positive than no. Do you know what I mean? Even when they would change the constitution for the abortion or for the gay marriage or whatever, vote yes for progress. Vote yes is positive. Whereas maybe it should have been vote yes to maintain the constitution. Because a lot of people are quite happy with the constitution,
Yeah. And we're lucky to have it, but it's changing to not for the good. And the ones and the rights we're fighting for to keep, like, the right for free speech and right for movement have been challenged in the last 6 months. And so while it's changing in one area, such as the right to life have been taken away, it's been challenged and taken away, and by other areas such as the right to a free movement and right to free speech. So kind of like we're trying to hold on to areas, and then other areas been changed under our own, under our noses, so to speak. So it's been taken apart.
What's that, Karen?
It's been taken apart, the Constitution, what we have of
it. They're totally dismantling it,
Yeah. And we're lucky to have it, though, but still. I think that England doesn't have one.
Yeah, but
I mean,
they
that
have,
battle of the free speech is not over yet. Not by long
yeah.
shot.
The HSE, we always busy, all them people on trolleys and corridors disappeared quickly. Yeah. Paul is saying comedians in the UK apologising for programmes they did years ago with Black Cat. Yeah, I saw that. Keith Lemon, that guy, apologised and said he's so ashamed for it. I mean, that was so embarrassing to see the likes of that. There was something that he did that was actually quite good, and he's not apologising.
Well, next thing you know,
But
you'll have Tommy Tiernan coming out and apologising as well. Do you know what I mean? Comedians come out and they say things that they're funny for a reason.
yeah,
I don't mean that any disrespect to anybody,
yeah.
but they make us laugh for a reason. If you look at Michael McIntyre or Lee Evans, and they make us laugh. They take life and they look at it differently, and they make us laugh.
I know what Michael McIntyre is very safe comedy. You know, he doesn't.
Yeah, well, to a certain degree.
He'll sort of laugh at the tap dripping or something like that. You know.
Yeah, but he does make things simple.
Yeah, but maybe they should bring back the Black and White Minstrel Show.
Oh, I remember them. Oh, geez.
Remember that? It used to be quite scary. It used to be quite scary, wasn't it? You know, the big white. But they just wouldn't have that now. You know, there's so many things they wouldn't have now. You know, with that program about the songs they wouldn't have. You know, it's just because it was so offensive. Like Feed the World was offensive. You know,
Feed the what?
Feed the World. You know, Band-Aid. Feed the World was. They tried to say it was slagging off Africa, you know, but it's trying to help raise millions for it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
So I'd like to. Yeah, you think Bono's worse than Geldof?
That's more my opinion. Maybe they're the same. It's just I find like Bono has gone really down the wrong track. I used to like them when I was a kid. Me and my sister go to concerts.
I have all their albums actually. I mean, they did make some very, very good music, but no, he is a complete muppet. Bono, like, and he's gone about. He's always virtue signaling and bringing in refugees, but he lives in a completely white area. He doesn't even like any neighbors anywhere near him. You know.
Yeah.
That's hypocrisy.
And he has his taxes outside the country, so he's not even, you know, any money he's earning is not benefiting Ireland. I mean, if I was an artist or writer or something, I would keep my money here. I would want my money to be used here. My money, my taxes and my wages and your wages is used here in your country. I mean, I shop local as much as I can, but I sometimes find when you're shopping local, it's very difficult. You know, you're forced to go into the likes of Aldi and Lidl or other British stores because the Irish stores don't help themselves, or they're not allowed to help themselves. They price themselves out of the market. So you want to shop local and Irish in that vegetable store or the gift store or the supermarket, but either it's too dear, not enough, you know, business owners and that kind of stuff. Their business hours are different, so it's very hard to shop local. I mean, I know the message is trying to get out there, but when you want to shop Irish, you kind of have to spend more money time.
Remember your man that stood in Louth, the Fianna Fáil guy? His thing was vote Fianna Fáil, vote local. Never mind policy. Do you know what I mean? It was just vote local.
But he's not. I mean, they're not local. They're more global.
I know.
You know, they push the big businesses.
Yeah.
And even at a more local level in Drogheda, I mean, all the businesses go to Dundalk, and when we do get something, it's Amazon, and there's no Irish companies being encouraged into the area to give jobs to Irish people. They all go under. I mean, there's a big Chinese company in Dundalk at the moment, making vaccines and that. Again, it's a Chinese organisation, not an Irish organisation. Amazon's coming to Ireland, to Drogheda, in Meath, the Meath side, but it's an American company.
Yeah.
You know, American, Chinese, there's nothing Irish about it whatsoever. I mean, why can't Irish people make their own stuff?
Guaranteed Irish, remember that?
Yeah, I don't know when I last seen that symbol.
Probably
You
because
used to see it all the time when
I
kids
think
were.
it was done away with because it was breaking EU rules for open competition. But there's a couple of good comments here.
Read them out.
Nora was saying yes, the minstrels were scary looking, spooky clowns. Clowns are always scary. I always thought anyway.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a term for that. Scared of clowns.
Yeah.
It's a real kind of fear.
Do you remember that Bo Selector? Was that the one with
Who?
the hand? Bo Selector. Was that the one with the guy with the hand? He had the hand thing. Wasn't that it? It had or the chin. Was it the thing with the chin? Was that Bo Selector? Do you remember that? No.
No.
He was the guy, Keith Lemon, who started complaining or giving cooking out, as it were, about all his earlier sketches. Anton Deck. I never thought they're not funny anyway, you know.
No.
They don't really count.
I mean, you think of The Life of Brian and all those comedies that were funny, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave Allen would probably one of the better ones, I'd say. Even if I see him on Facebook, it's quite. It missed that kind of satirical, dry, true humor about religion and life in Ireland and how it was in Ireland.
Why is Gar saying Mel B for me? Is that out of Mel B out of Spice Girls? No, I didn't like her. I thought she was my least favorite Spice Girl. We're on to the Spice Girls now, Karen. I liked Emma. She was my favorite.
Blondie one, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like Mel B, and that's not because of anything to do with colour. I just didn't think she was all that attractive.
Yeah, you know? They were mixed bag, really, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty untalented, really. What else is saying? Scary, haha. Paul's saying, oh, I. They're able to talk, yeah. Are you a fan of Anton Deck, Karen?
No.
No, there am I.
I don't like what they do, that Australian, get me out of here kind of thing. They're too showy and...
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
Yeah, so, that culture now really turns me off. I hate it. Big Brother, live, date, and all that kind of... I mean, Irish people in particular, the RTE in particular... Sorry?
Blind Date, was it? Yeah.
Well, any kind of that kind of celebrity, everything is about celebrity.
It's all celebrity, yeah.
And Dine With Me and celebrity shows and celebrity this and I'm a Millionaire, and it's like there's nobody allowed to go on TV that isn't a celebrity anymore, or they want to have celebrity.
Yeah.
What are they afraid of? They can't handle not being famous. I mean, you see a lot of people who got to be famous because they were a good actor, they were a good writer, they could sing, they could make music. They got that because of their work or talent. And even when you look at the likes of the X Factor in the wintertime, it's like it's more about the judges than the singers. What the judges are saying to each other, Sorry?
Yeah, I know.
There's no true originality and true I don't know. Everything's false. And I've seen it in the last 20 years. I've seen it.
There's a debate going on about who's the favourite Spice Girl.
We're going to have a racism, but that's okay. That's fine. I'm trying to solve the world here.
I know. So Suzanne here has said baby, scary, posh, ginger, sporty. In that order, Suzanne. I quite liked Emma at the very start and Ginger at the very start, and Victoria, but the other two not really. No. We're objectifying women, Karen.
Sorry.
Yeah. We're objectifying women here.
Yeah.
But look, we'll talk about this other topic. Yes, I do agree. It's totally all about celebrity. It's the cult of celebrity. People are just on things because they're famous for being famous. You can't actually, it's like the classic one for that is Andy Murray's mother, the tennis player. His mother is on loads of things now. She's just famous for being his mother.
Yeah.
So she's
Yeah.
more of a celebrity than he is.
Yes.
She made some point about someone on her, which I thought was quite interesting. But she's just a famous a mother now, and that's the only reason she gets in.
And if you notice, like Mrs. Brown's Boys, and she has a show now where a celebrity and his
that
mother
is not funny at all. That is not funny at all. No.
A celebrity and his mother would come on the show.
Yeah.
As part of the show, and it's like it's not funny anymore. It's like they're losing their originality.
You can see the jokes coming about 3 weeks ago. I think no, I just don't think. I just don't think it's funny at all. Your man's a real globalist as well. The guy that does it, he was on one program one night talking about the Irish-English relationship, and Farage was on it, and he was slagging off Farage and saying, "What about
O'Connor?"
Your man, yeah, he was saying, "Oh yeah, we got racism when we went over to England, and we should welcome in the whole world into Ireland and make it a dumping ground for the world," And this lefty journalist beside him was saying, "Well, what about the new Irish? What about the Romanians? Well, they're not Irish, then, are they?"
I mean, if I lived in Poland, I'd always be Irish, no matter where I go in the world. If I went to China, if I went to Japan, the States, Australia, I would be Irish, true and true.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing else. I don't understand why you have to be something else. You should never forget where you come from.
Yeah.
You should never forget where you come from.
Yeah.
Whether you come from a poor area, an average area, country.
I think we should go by that. I mean, I think Dahi made the point that they made it now. They tightened up a wee bit in Ireland where they said you couldn't be born in the country. It had to be just with your parents. It had to be at least your parents born in the country. That means you were born here. You're not necessarily a citizen. So that guy that did that attack in Limerick, I would say he may have been born here, but he wouldn't get citizenship. He wouldn't get a passport under those rules. Then, of course, Sinn Féin globalists want to retract that and say that was done by referendum, but they want to remove that and say that was a wrong referendum and go back to the way it was. So that if you are born, you can automatically get it. And the guy, your man Cullinan from Sinn Féin, he says he hates the idea of Ireland for the Irish, but he's very happy to say Chucky Arla, but he's not happy with saying Ireland for the Irish. He hates that. He said it last week.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. But why? Why would you hate? Why can you be? How can you be in a party like that and force the British for years and turn around and say that?
They've completely sold out to the globalist agenda. They must be on the payroll of somebody because it's quite noticeable that they are so anti-Irish. I mean, who made the point the other night? I think it was Herman made the point. Fine Gael were never pro-Irish at all. Fianna Fáil were slightly. Not as bad as Fine Gael, but Sinn Féin and Fine Gael are absolutely on the same page now. They're just completely anti-Irish. They want to remove the tricolour and everything.
Yeah, that really scares me when you see all the flags and all the European flags going above and the LBIQT flag going up. It's like Pride this and European that, and that Ireland no longer exists in Europe at all as an entity.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened in France.
It is bad. I mean, there are still some nationalists left in Sinn Féin. Yeah.
Sorry?
But by and large, the party is run by radical feminist Marxists. They're all Sinn Féin, the party. There may be some nationalists left in it, but by and large, the leadership is fanatical Marxist feminists. Brits out, everybody else in is their mantra.
Yeah. Definitely.
Ireland for the Somalians. Yeah, unfortunately so. Well, look, we were asked to cover this topic earlier about the drag story time for kids. What are your feelings on that, Karen, about drag story time?
Well, I'm going to tell you something that happened last year. In April of last year, a library in Dean's Grange in South Dublin were bringing in this group of men who were dressed up. They were a drag group, and there was a story time on a Saturday for kids, and they were called Glitterhole. And the parents went ballistic when they found out. Now, the council that were bringing this in was the John Leary Rathdown County Council, who were organising this. So they had to cancel it. Now, Gript, that news channel, they interviewed one of the parents, one of the mothers. I mean, it's almost as if children can't be allowed to be children anymore. If I had a child, and I would bring them to the library in Drogheda on a Saturday morning to hear a story. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a staff member in the library to read to me and other children, or read to my child and other children. It's a social event. It's an educational, creative, fun time for children. That's it. Nothing else. There's no reason to bring men in dressed up in makeup and hair and dresses and shoes. That's for adults. Children should be allowed to be children as long as they possibly can. It's actually abusive.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. I'm not being prude, but it's disgusting.
Yeah. So that's part of the agenda too. That's kind of part of the globalist agenda too, to create a mishmash. So no, it's not on for children. Let children be children.
And you know, I mean, we've seen it on the our WhatsApp group, and the disturbing thing is our own broadcaster is sponsoring this, RTE, and you've seen it down the bottom underneath the ad. RTE are sponsoring, yeah. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're paying for. When we pay our TV license, we're given permission to sponsor something as serious and as disgusting as that.
And Coveney's brother is basically runs RTE, I think, doesn't he? So you know what you're getting there.
Yeah. It's all connected. It's almost as if they have a finger in that pie, they have a finger in this pie, to somebody else. Because Coveney has a friend in Keelings, and he's a brother in here. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's no let up.
Yeah, exactly.
So many fingers.
He's still his fingers in every pie. Homeschooling may be the solution, says Gar.
Sorry?
Homeschooling may be the solution.
And a lot of parents would say that, listen, the fear that the kids are not getting education. But I remember last year, March of last year, a well-known activist in here in Ireland, I won't remember her name, but she made a very valid point. When she started talking about cultural Marxism, we were talking about here, parents that were coming from, say, Europe, say Poland, who had suffered and seen the effects of communism, were coming to her saying that, why are Irish parents putting up with this? We're after leaving our country to get away from communism, and now we're seeing it in this country, and we're seeing it in our schools because it was the sex education was starting to come in. They were starting to talk about that, and it just all the bad influences on children. And so now we're seeing it here. We can see it before you see it because we see the signs in our own country, like Poland and Hungary. So we're not listening to that. We're missing all the signs, and there's too much acceptance. Parents sitting there saying, oh, that's okay. It's just a change in schedule, a change in our education. But they're not questioning it. You know, they're not questioning stuff. You know?
Yeah, I agree. Paul is saying there George Floyd was claimed as a celebrity on some sites because he was a porn star. And he said he was a criminal. A porn star. But he was a criminal that worked with the copper as bouncers. Apparently, I heard a rumor that he knew the cops. He knew them. Apparently, some said they were Freemasons together. There might have been a Freemason stitch-up to cause a lot of the chaos that's going on. But I mean, let's just finish on the topic there. I mean, the facts about the George Floyd thing. In America, you're more likely to be killed in police custody if you're white. That's a fact. These are FBI statistics. You're more likely to be killed. Black people are killed in America mostly by black people. Black people kill far more white people than white people kill black people. So where's this indecision? You know, and in Australia, you know, there was an Australian woman was killed last year. This video was put up there by a Muslim guy who was doing it, the journalist, interviewing people in Australia who were marching for George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. There was a white woman killed in Minneapolis last year by a black police officer, and these ones in Australia marching for George Floyd hadn't even heard of her. They hadn't even heard of her. Yet they're out marching for George Floyd, but they hadn't heard about the Australian woman that was killed the year before. And there was actually a march for that incident, but not in support of the woman that was killed, in support of the treatment given to the police guy who killed her. So work that one out. So those are just some of the facts of all the fraud around this Black Lives Matter thing. It's complete. The premise is completely false.
But why are they so quick to forget his sins? I mean, like, he's a criminal at the end of the day, and I did a big funeral for him as if he was some kind of famous big shot. I mean, he's a criminal. If I was a criminal and I was killed, would I get the same kind of attention? No, I would not give it. Nobody would bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
They forget what he'd done with his life, and they put him on this other pedestal because he was killed, and then you forget that he could have been killed because of the drugs in his system. Fentanyl is very, very serious. He had other big drugs in his system as well that would have contributed to his death.
Yeah.
Apart from the knee on his neck,
it was probably not the knee in the neck that killed him anyway. It wasn't asphyxiation. He was brought inside. Now, if there's anything wrong in malpractice, I'm the first to say it should be accounted for.
Oh, yeah.
But not this mass hysteria and this mass agenda. I mean, at worst case scenario, it may well have been inappropriate action by the police. You don't know. Was it maybe he made a mistake? He's certainly going to pay for it. What's not this nonsense about it being racist? It's just an insult to anybody's intelligence on anybody's level. Yeah, you're a rap sheet as long as your arm is correct. Yeah.
Why do people forget those things? I mean, he threatened a pregnant mother. He's a very serious criminal. So
yeah. So it's an insult. It's an insult to Black America to have this guy as a hero. You know, there are a lot of other people law-abiding. There were law-abiding Black Americans that were killed in these riots. They're here compared to this guy here. To have this guy as a hero is basically shaming Black America. Somebody said he was 33 Freemasons. There's 33 degrees in it.
Gee, that's high. That's high.
Yeah.
How many levels?
It's 33 apparently.
Gee, that's...
Yeah. So there you go. That's you could be getting into conspiracy theory there, but say it was a Masonic setup. But this is Jen O'Doherty's always on about the Mason infiltration of all these things, you know, like Notre Dame might have been Masonic. There's that Irish journalist based in Paris was saying that. Do you know that guy? I can't remember his name. There was a good video Gemma did with Paul, that Irish journalist, and he was saying that there's a lot of Masonic influence. They've infiltrated the Catholic Church as well. Infiltrated the Vatican. Yeah. You wouldn't know this whole thing could be a setup as well. There's talk that he's still alive, but he wasn't killed at all. But
well, it's the same with Jeff Epstein as well, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I said, but who knows?
Right.
It's too crazy for me at the moment. There's nothing there really that's true anymore.
But either way, the whole bloody thing, the whole narrative is just complete bunkum.
You can't call it like it is. It's like you have to say X is Y and Y is Z, or you know, if I see something in front of me, people say, "Oh no, you didn't really see that. You seen this instead," and that's what's going to get reported. Yeah. So I see a murder or a shooting or an accident or abuse or something. I can't say it like it is anymore. The truth is not the truth anymore. It's something else completely. And that's the problem. And a journalist, I mean, when you look at Veronica Guerin, going back to Veronica Guerin's day, she probably did take a risk. You know, she was a real journalist. She went out there and found the truth and what was going on in organised crime in Ireland and took a huge risk and got herself killed. But like, I'm not saying every journalist should do that, but like, journalists have a responsibility. If you're in investigative journalism, like, you know, Nicola Tarrant, you're going out there, you're finding out what's going on in Ireland, finding out about drugs and gangs and criminals. You have a responsibility to tell the truth, and now that's gone.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, we're on the side of truth, and the truth about that, I mean, any forensic analysis of this whole Black Lives Matter is just absolute bunkum. You know? And that's not racist. It's just truthful. It's an excuse to eradicate. Some of the conspiracy people are saying, yes, it's a whole setup to cause disorder and further the globalist anti-nationalist agenda. So I don't know what people think about that. Any viewers or listeners, do they think it's all does anybody think it's all a setup? or is it probably not? Actually, probably it happened, and I mean, Trump, for example, took decisive action. He says he immediately condemned it. There was a major investigation, FBI investigation, and the guy's facing murder too. I mean, something similar happened. I made the point that something similar happened under Obama's presidency, and he completely fudged it. He didn't want to speak out about it at all. So what an ineffective president he was. I mean, he was a black president. He was in a great position there to speak out about his own people, if you like, and he failed to do it.
Mm.
So what a waste of space he was on it, you know.
Mm.
Trump
He's
acted
disappointment, all right.
Yeah.
I thought he would have made a lot of change. We didn't really do much for the 8 years that he was there.
No, it was a major disappointment. It was a bit of a letdown to the black community, I think.
Mm. Mm.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know what Trump is going to, if he's going to get in on that, because so many things have gone against him. I mean, it's very hard to figure out what's going to happen to him. But he's made changes, and he stood up for, and he went against the grain. Even the way he communicates with the press, and he uses Twitter, and he goes against all the things that other presidents have done. And he got the National Guard out, and he knocked it on his head. But still, it's like America's on its knees for COVID. It's on its knees about these riots. There's riots going to go across countries because of what happened in America 2 weeks ago. And it's like people have lost their sense of perspective.
I'll make a point as well about globalism. If ever anybody has any doubts about globalism and multiculturalism, just take a look at America, because that's what's going to come. It doesn't work in any major shape or form. If you keep importing, as they're trying to import another million Africans in the next 20 years, you are going to get that in a massive scale in Ireland. That is going to happen. It's already happening.
We haven't got the police to deal with it either. I mean, you look at the police force; they won't be able to handle it.
Yeah.
The amount of violence and rapes and gangs, and do you think our gangs are bad now? They'll be worse in years to come.
Yeah. I mean, what will happen is Garage Murphy made the point as well. If you bring in more and more immigrants, some police guy will make a mistake somewhere. One will get killed, and then it'll be boom, Garda, institutionally racist, and then you're gonna have all this. It's so predictable,
True.
Yeah, Galileo was making a point. Trump didn't do what he was going to say he was going to do. He promised more than he delivered. Probably he hasn't been as good maybe as he could have been, but I think he's better than the alternative probably. And I still think Trump will win the next election. I still think this will be an own goal. I think. What do you think? Do you think the other guy went Biden?
No, I don't know. I mean, it's like there's no much choice again. I mean, Hillary Clinton is not even in the picture.
No, but I think all these things actually they're counterproductive, because the other side dig their heels in and said, "Well, sod that, we're not having that." And people are actually now standing up for them, taking down these statues. And they're trying to take down the one of the Boy Scout leader, Baden Powell, and they're saying, "No, we're not having that," because he had allegedly had sympathy with Hitler. I think he read Mein Kampf. I think that's his only,
Jesus.
Okay. Well, I think we'll maybe wrap it up there, Karen. That was a very good chat tonight. We had over an hour. We had about 7 viewers at one point, so plenty of.
Oh my God.
Plenty of chat and discussion, and thanks very much. Go to Mila Moyagov, everybody did go there. Chat the chat.
Thanks for coming on.
A couple of new faces there tonight. Garth, especially Gohara. Okay. Unless anybody else has anything else they want to chip in before we. I'll try and link those videos in the comments. All right.
Okay.
Thank the Lord. Anything else you want to add? You happy? Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, that's it. I just think we need to kind of grow a backbone and stop being afraid of the word racism.
Yeah.
Because it's not about racism. It's not about. We shouldn't have to apologize for being Irish or French or Italian. It's like we're afraid of ourselves. afraid of our own shadows. Where is this coming from? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And we need to kind of stop being afraid, because it's like a wall around us, and we need to get past it. You know, so get out there and be active, and love your culture, get to know your history, and love your, you know, start learning Irish, you know, learn Irish music, you know, do something Irish, if it's only one thing.
Exactly. Gareth saying he thinks Trump will win by a landslide. I would tend to agree. Okay. Gurmila Mayagov, Karen, August Gurmila Mayagov.
We go.
Nina Buenos Aires. Slán go fáil project. Jane Keener, Ella Bidger, Shachtan show hugging. Slán go fáil.
Slán go fáil.